So I'm walking around or whatever, so one of his sons, I'm not going to tell you which one, but it was like recruiting like whoever they wanted to go inside the house, because the is inside the house and in the backyard. So you have the pool, and they're playing loud house music. Like, Mark, the house music, it makes you feel kind of woozy, first of all, because it's like a rave or something. Dun, 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 and it's real loud, so you can't really see nothing, but you're seeing everybody like walking around, drunk, hopping around. It's still 7 a.m. So the sun is like coming up, and people are walking around naked, period. Let's get into it.
Tanea just dropped a bombshell revelation about what went down at one of Diddy's parties, and you won't believe what she witnessed. It's no secret that Diddy's parties are the stuff of legend, with talks always circulating about wild nights and shocking behavior from A-list celebrities. But what Tanea shared takes things to a whole new level.
I got myself into a situation where I was about to get trafficked, and this was like 3 years ago. And I was just like, it was a close one. You know, I came up on this prince, and he was Arabian, and he flew me to Miami, and he said I was gonna be there for 2 weeks. We were in a $30 million house, and I ended up being there for a month, and I had to escape, okay? And we were meeting so many girls, and girls from Love and Hip Hop was coming in the house, and celebrities was there, and all of this stuff, but it started to get real weird, you know? It was a lot of, and like, I don't do hard that. Like, I was smoking, and they were doing hard stuff, and it was just like, it was getting, like, my gut was telling me something bad is about to happen. But he was trying to like distract us with buying this stuff. We was going shopping and doing all these things, and for some reason I felt like I'm used to getting shit, but like this right here, where am I about to be tomorrow, and why are we still here?
So Tanea wasn't always a name people whispered about when talking about scandals in Hollywood, but she was well connected to the LA scene, always rubbing shoulders with industry professionals and influencers. At that time, she was trying to build her own network in the entertainment world, attending exclusive parties and events to stay relevant. She knew that making the right connections could open doors for her career, and she was determined to stay in the game. Then, she met a mysterious Arabian prince. The way she tells it, their paths crossed at a high-end Beverly Hills event, where he introduced himself as someone with deep connections to the music and entertainment world. He painted a glamorous picture, hinting at endless opportunities and promising that he could help her get noticed by the right people. His main pitch was an invitation to Miami for Ultra Music Week, where he said he could introduce her to top industry players and artists. Excited by the potential opportunities and a little starstruck by the prince's charm, Tanea agreed. But what she didn't realize at the time was how bad this prince was connected to some of the biggest names in the industry, including Diddy. That part came as a shock much later, and by then, the situation was already going in a direction she couldn't have anticipated. As the pieces started falling into place, Tanea began feeling a sense of unease, realizing this wasn't just any invite, it was leading her into a world she wasn't prepared for. When she landed in Miami, the first night kicked off at Club Live, one of the most famous clubs in South Beach. The energy was electric, with the music booming, lights flashing, and VIP sections filled with high-profile guests. South Beach nightlife is known for its wild excess, but this night felt different. Tanea partied alongside celebrities and influencers, living it up until the early hours of the morning. The club scene was intense, a blur of people popping bottles, taking shots, and dancing like they had no care in the world. For a moment, Tanea was swept up in it, enjoying the glamour of the night. But then, the tone shifted when someone from the prince's entourage mentioned that they were heading to Diddy's mansion for an after-party. It was around 5 a.m. By this point, and while most people would have called it a night, Tanea was interested.
Guess where we're going tonight? I'm like, where? He's like, to P. Diddy's house. I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, that's crazy, because I hear a lot about P. Diddy, and I'm like, his house for what? Like, to go sing? He's like, no, he's throwing this wild party, da-da-da. I'm like, oh, okay.
Meeting Diddy felt like an exciting opportunity, and the thought of a more private gathering at his mansion added to the fascination. However, the further she went down this path, the more her curiosity turned to caution. When they arrived at the mansion, one of the first things Tanea noticed was the intense security. Everyone had to lock up their phones. With phones out of the picture, there was no way to capture what was about to go down, making everything feel secretive and unsettling.
We all got in the car, like a big Uber, and me and all the other girls. Now, mind you, I'm the only black girl. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm about to meet P. Diddy. Oh, like I'm probably gonna have to sing for him. Da, da, da. And I just tried to like keep my composure. So we get there, and that's when stuff got weird. And that's why they lock up our phones, because they know what we see in there, it's he can get in trouble like right now. So basically, we arrived, security guard patted us down. They put our phone in this little bubble case. So the bubble case is closed. They can't get unlocked until we walk out.
For Tanea, it was clear that this was more than just a casual after party. The strict rules signaled that something was off, and as they made their way inside, the atmosphere grew heavier with a sense of mystery and anticipation. By the time they reached the party, it was nearly 7 a.m., and the scene inside was something straight out of a movie. Loud house music filled the air, and the sight of people skinny dipping in the pool was one of the first things that made Tanea feel uneasy. The party was still raging despite the early hour, with guests looking like they'd been up all night, many of them clearly under the influence of something stronger than alcohol. The carefree behavior of the partygoers only added to the bizarre vibe, and Tanea started to realize she might have been in over her head. Then came the moment where things took an even stranger turn. Guests were given special shoes, yes, shoes to gain access to a more exclusive part of the party happening inside the mansion, something referred to as the
So P. Diddy's son was like, you. And I'm like, me or her? And then he was like, no, you. Come here. So I went to him, and he gave me some shoes. So these shoes was like some terry cloth, like robe shoes, white shoes. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with these? He was like, go in the house with these. He was like, everybody who gets these shoes, you get to go in the house. But I'm thinking you could just go in the house if you want to, but everybody can't go in the house. They're literally selectively picking who they want. So I'm like, well, what about my friend? He was like, no, only you. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm holding the shoes. I'm walking around. I'm a good loyal friend. I'm not going to go inside a house where they say my friend can't go. So we just walking around mingling. But we tripping out, looking at everybody like they off everything, smoking and jumping around like hooligans. And so I seen P. Diddy or whatever, and I seen him with the Prince. I'm not going to say what he was doing, but something really, I get real nervous. Something real crazy, because I don't like to really expose people. I could talk about me, but when it's about like me, my family, because it's us. But when it's other people, bro, doing something real, I'm gonna say.
This part of the house wasn't for everyone. Only those who got the special footwear were allowed inside. The exclusivity made the event feel even more ominous, with Tanea and others wondering what exactly was happening behind those closed doors. As Tanea moved through the mansion, she noticed the big names around her. Celebrities she'd only seen on TV or Instagram, along with popular models, were all in attendance. The star power at the event only added to the surreal feeling. Everyone seemed to be in on something she wasn't aware of, and that sense of unease kept growing. But the most jaw-dropping part of Tanea's story was Diddy's behavior. She described witnessing strange interactions between Diddy and some of the partygoers. His actions were beyond bizarre, crossing boundaries that made even the most seasoned partygoers uncomfortable. The mood inside shifted from extravagant to something darker, and Tanea knew she needed to get out before things escalated on TV any further. What she saw confirmed what had been trending about Diddy's parties for years. This wasn't just a wild night, it was something far more worse.
So we get there, and that's when stuff got weird. And that's why they lock up our phones, because they know what we see in there, it's he can get in trouble like right now. So basically, we arrived, security guard patted us down. They put our phone in this little bubble case. So the bubble case is closed. They can't get unlocked until we walk out. So I'm walking around or whatever. So one of his sons, I'm not going to tell you which one, but it was like recruiting like whoever they wanted to go inside the house, because the freak off is inside the house and in the backyard. I'm like, okay, let me just go in the house. So I told my friend, like, wait right here, girl, let me just put on these shoes, see what this house is about. Walk up in there. I don't judge people, because at the time I was just smoking weed. But when people are out of their mind, and when people, what you don't want to be a part of. And it's just like, I'm seeing stuff that you see on the movies. This corner, this got going on. This corner, they over here doing this. This corner, they over there having... This corner, I'm just going to say, because I don't know what I can say, because I'm not trying to be incriminating myself, but they were dressed up like little Harajuku Barbies.
Like what?
Little people, okay? We're not gonna say what type of little people, but like a fetish. And I'm looking like, what are they doing here?
As the night dragged on, things took a disturbing turn for off-tanea. What started as an exclusive party at Diddy's mansion slowly shifted into something far more unsettling. She recalled how Diddy and his entourage seemed to take a particular interest in her. It wasn't the usual party vibe where celebrities mingle with random guests. It felt much more targeted. Off-tanea described it as though they were plotting on her, and her instincts were screaming that something was wrong. Diddy's entourage kept watching her, their eyes following her every move, adding to the growing tension she was already feeling. What made things worse was a bizarre conversation that Diddy initiated. He pulled off-tanea aside, and what he said sent chills down her spine. He hinted at taking her to Cuba. At first, she didn't know if it was a joke or some kind of weird flex, but Diddy's tone and the intensity behind his words were enough to make her feel trapped. Off-tanea had no idea how serious he was or what he truly meant by it, but the uncertainty of the situation made her incredibly uncomfortable. It was as if Diddy was suggesting she go somewhere far away with him without explaining why, and that thought was terrifying. The tension only escalated when Diddy's then-girlfriend stepped into the picture. Off-tanea remembers how she felt the cold, possessive energy the woman projected. Diddy's girlfriend clearly didn't like how close off-tanea had gotten to him, and her icy behavior made the entire situation even more awkward. It created a weird power dynamic where off-tanea felt like she was being pulled into some twisted mind game between Diddy and his partner. She was caught in the middle of a tense, uncomfortable interaction that added to her sense of vulnerability. As the night progressed, the pieces started coming together for off-tanea. This wasn't just a wild party, it felt like a trap. The more she observed, the more she began to understand the darker reality of what was really happening around her. The strange shoes, the locked phones, the strange vibe, all of it started pointing towards something more sinister than just a The heavy security, the exclusive guest list, and the weird interactions all made her suspect that this party might have been a front for something even more dangerous, like human or manipulation. The realization hit her hard, and the sense of danger became overwhelming.
The prince have been saying your life is never gonna be the same. You're gonna be happy, somebody's expecting you, and I just feel like that was the time that I was gonna get or, you know, or something like that. And then they kept trying to make me, like, I've been around celebrities before. If a rapper wants you or somebody wants you, they're not gonna do it. They're gonna send somebody else to do it. So if a waitress is coming or another girl or a pretty girl or a guy, they'll sick somebody on you. Like, take this drink, do this, do that. And then you just feel eyes on you, like watching to see if you're gonna do it, when you're gonna do it.
Off-tanea made the bold decision to get out. She knew if she stayed any longer, something bad was going to happen. She managed to slip away from the crowd and called the police. Even though she wasn't sure what she'd say, she needed some kind of backup. At that moment, her only goal was to get away. She flagged down a taxi and headed straight for the airport. The adrenaline was pumping as she made her escape, but deep down, she knew that this night would leave scars. The whole experience felt like something out of a nightmare. The emotional toll of that night was immense. Off-tanea felt deceived and in real danger, and it wasn't just about the party, it was about everything that happened behind the scenes. The trust she had in the people who invited her, the excitement she initially felt, all of it was shattered by the realization that she had walked into something much darker than she ever imagined. In the days and weeks that followed, off-tanea couldn't stop thinking about what she had witnessed. The event left her disillusioned and deeply disturbed. Reflecting on the night, she realized how close she had come to being caught up in something truly terrifying. It wasn't just a wild party with celebrities, it was a twisted environment where people were exploited and boundaries were crossed without hesitation. Off-tanea started seeing the entertainment world with fresh eyes, questioning the morality of the people involved and the dangers lurking behind closed doors. Her story didn't just stand alone, it connected to the talks that had been going around Diddy's parties for years. The whispers about his gatherings, the secrecy, and the questionable behavior, it all lined up with what off-tanea had witnessed firsthand. Her experience added credibility to the claims that something far more worse was happening at these events. It wasn't just tabloid gossip anymore, her detailed account was evidence that these parties had a dark side that people couldn't ignore. The parties, the illegal activities, the manipulation of vulnerable guests, off-tanea's story was just one piece of a growing puzzle that revealed the darker side of Diddy's world. What she went through wasn't an isolated incident, and her account supported the talks about what really went on behind the scenes at these events. The fallout from her experience only added fuel to the fire, as more and more people began to question what was really happening at these parties. And this brings us to fans' reaction. A person commented saying there has to be thousands of girls like her who have the stories but are too afraid to bring them up. Another one wrote, "This girl is not lying. I remember watching her story time years ago before Diddy News got popular, and then she specifically said Petey's house." Now, we want to hear from you. Do you guys trust Tanea's story? Do you think her experience is just one of many? Or do you think there's more to the story that we're not seeing yet? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Before we wrap up, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you don't miss any future updates. This is far from the last time we'll hear about Diddy's wild parties.